Welcome, everyone, to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster. My name is Daiji Andy Perbolas, and I'll be serving as your worship associate today. I want to welcome you here during this very joyous occasion, and also to say that all are welcome here, no matter what you believe, no matter who you love. You are welcome in our community. To start off, we will start with our opening hymn, which is in the teal hymnal, The Oneness of Everything, number 1052.
Past the reaches of the mind, there find the key to nature's harmony, and in architecture so entwined, like the birds whose patterns grace the sky, and carry all who join in love expanding. The message of peace will rise in flight, taking the way of the world upon its wings. In the oneness of Peace is in the nets of trees who stir before seek to find the truth that we might understand and reduce to terms defined. Vast and immeasurable time and space, also overwhelmingly design. Oh, passing years, just might I know the faith that winters in the heart to be reborn in spring, to hear and to feel the pulse of life enters my soul as a song to sing of the oneness of everything.
Today's going to be a story of our stories. So as Andy lights our chalice, I invite Matt to come up and offer our reflection.
Good morning. My name is Matthew Bruns, and my family moved here when I was little. My dad accepted a position at Franklin Marshall College as a physics professor. We moved from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Most all other traditional religions really would not have worked for Dad or Mom for that fact either. Mom and Dad became very involved in the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster community. I went to the church school, Sunday school here as a little guy and then as a teenager. And yes, and there's a good number of you out there, I'm taking a look around, that knew Mom and Dad, so I did win the parent lottery, as it were. My big activity growing up was Boy Scouts. I wasn't much of an athlete. My parents were very involved in that. My mom was the den mother when I was in Cub Scouts, and my dad was on the troop committee, including being the chairman. He went on campouts and things like that when I was in Boy Scouts. Therefore, I ended up, I am an Eagle Scout, so thanks lots to Mom and Dad. Mom and Dad were involved in many community organizations. My mother was involved in the Lancaster Rec Commission. She was on the board there. She was the secretary as well as a Lancaster Township representative. My dad was involved in many different activities and organizations. He spent a lot of time, particularly after he retired, involved with the Lancaster County Conservancy. The 1 year, as a matter of fact, he was Volunteer of the Year. I always had a great relationship with my parents. As I got older as an adult, I'd go to visit them every Sunday, have dinner with them. We'd go on trips and did a lot of different activities. My father passed away in March of 2018. My mom passed away in 2022. The expressions of kindness, caring, and love from many of you out there were almost overwhelming. Cards that I got from many, many Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster folks covered my coffee table, my mantle, all over the place. People approached me with kind words, hugs, expressions of sympathy. All of it was greatly appreciated at a difficult time for me. The services for both Mom and Dad were held at Homestead Village, where they lived towards the end of their life. Many of you folks out there, many Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster people attended both of the services for Mom and Dad, and involved in those services were both Phil Holsinger, Tony Stahersky was Eli's predecessor. Eli was involved, as well as Reverend Elizabeth Shuba. Thank you very much.
While Luann is making her way to the lectern, let us do, I believe that we're streaming, and I usually forget this, so let's take an opportunity to say hello to those folks at home. If you just want to turn and wave to the camera that's back there.
That's great.
Oh, they're everywhere now, see? Can't teach us middle-aged doggle tricks. Anyway,
Okay.
Madam, when you're ready.
Okay. Good morning. I am pleased and proud to be standing before you as your board president. And I'd like to welcome you all. And I'm going to ask if there are any board members present. There are board members present. If they would just stand up for a second, please. Our board's up. So if you have any questions or comments or need something, look for them. Okay. They also have green name tags. That's why we have the green name tag. I was asked to welcome you and to give reminiscence of my time at UUCL. And today is a day of joy, but it's also a day, a little bit of sadness, because we reflect on the journeys that many of us have had at this church. And there are folks missing from here that we wish would be joining us in this celebration. It was August 1973, and I was newlywed, and my husband Robin and I were looking for a church. So we stumbled upon something called Unitarian. Well, he was disillusioned with life. He'd been in the army, drafted, all that. I was disillusioned with the Lutheran church, so Unitarian sounded kind of interesting. So we showed up, but there was very little activity outside the building. Couldn't understand that. But as we got closer, there was a wooden placard at that time, and the wooden placard said, "All seats free," okay? And then under that, it said, "Church closed for the summer. See you in the fall." At that moment, I knew this was my church home. God must trust the Unitarians, so I didn't have to get up early during the summer on Sundays. We came back in autumn in 1973, and we stayed. I guess it's till death do us part. Now I'm going to fast forward a little bit, like about 30 years. And I was sitting in a town hall meeting in the fellowship hall where Tim has his artwork today, and we have cake and coffee. And we were talking about things that would improve the church. This was about 20 years ago. And it came up that the pews were uncomfortable and the lighting was dim and nobody could hear this, and oh my goodness. But at the time, everybody said, well, we can't do that. Unitarians just don't give money. We don't have guilt. The Catholics have it right. They have guilt. We don't have guilt. So everybody was sure we could never do this. Well, the conversation came up again and again and again. And finally, we actually did it. You are not sitting on air. You are sitting on chairs. And we have lights that you can actually see the words in the hymnal. And this reminded me of a poem. My grandmother was a very folksy kind of woman, and she'd like to read poems. I don't know if we read poems to kids anymore, but we did way back in the good old days or whatever. And this is by a man called Edgar Guest. He's, well, some people would call him corny. I call him folksy, all right? The title of the poem is "It Couldn't Be Done." And I dedicate this poem to everybody in here who said, yes, it can. Somebody said that it couldn't be done. But he, with a chuckle, replied, well, maybe it couldn't, but he would be one who wouldn't say so till he tried. So he buckled right in with the trace of a grin on his face. If he worried, he hid it. He started to sing as he tackled the thing that couldn't be done, and he did it. Somebody scoffed, oh, you'll never do that. At least no one ever has done it. So he took off his coat and he took off his hat, and the first thing we knew, he'd begun it. With a lift of his chin and a bit of a grin, without any doubting or quit, he started to sing as the tackled the thing that he couldn't be done, and he did it. There are thousands to tell you it cannot be done. There are thousands to prophesize failure. There are thousands to point out to you, one by one, the dangers that wait to assail you. But just buckle in with the bit of a grin. Just take off your coat and go to it. Just start into things as you tackle the thing that cannot be done, and you'll do it. Thank you.
My experience with UUCL was very much a journey of individuals and the principles. My wife and I had come to UUCL back in the mid-90s, late 90s as a way of having our children be involved in a religion. And I was involved with the religious education program at that time, and we were involved in a number of different activities, and we were very slow to become members. We became members then in about 2006, and when we decided to do it, we jumped in wholeheartedly because I can remember the situation. They had a dedication ceremony, and my wife and I were sitting in the pews, and we looked at each other and said, let's do this, and we decided that day and became members that same day. The idea of people and everything in this community has been a great experience for me. We have been involved many years in Dinner Go Round, and just last evening we had a very intimate dinner go round with just 4 people, and I found that that is a great way to get to know individuals in the community here, and also was a way of having very stimulating conversations about all different types of ideas. I also got involved in Soul Matters and found that as a way of sharing earnestly of my own ideas on different topics and allowing others to do the same. And from that, developed very deep friendships, and many of those friendships I still have today. Of course, it was not always easy. There were difficult times that we experienced, and different transitions from minister to minister. And as we've gone through many of those transitions, there were many ups and downs, and it was the principles and the people that I've met here that have sustained me. And I'm certainly looking forward to this new transition. Thank you.
Next will be our offering this morning. Just as a reminder, we're sharing the plate this month with Meals on Wheels of Lancaster. So at this point, the offering will be gratefully received.
Good morning. I'm Dave Dusinger, and I'm not normally up here, so this is a real experience for me. I was a lost Episcopalian, born and raised in Lancaster, then attending Penn State in 1973 introduced me to Jewish fraternity brothers, Buddhism, Hinduism, New Age psychic concepts. Growing up on Sunday, services were high mass, sung by the priest, and the incense was so thick in the air it was visible. But that was all behind me. The symbolism no longer applied to my life. Then I came to the UUCL through my wife, Naomi, who is a member here starting in about 1974. We were married here June 9th of 1984. It was the hottest day of the year in 1984. The church wasn't air conditioned at that point. Now, 40 years later, I reflect on the years and the changes in our family, our building, and in myself. I think my first memory of UUCL was a Christmas Eve service where the candles just would not light. Everybody got a good chuckle out of it. I was in shock. That was the start of a wonderful, long engagement with liberal religion and the family here at UUCL. Spiritually, together, we taught Sunday school. We attended services for the late Kid Howe. We had small group ministry of covenant groups. We came together after 9/11. We hugged and supported each other. We came together after wars started. We protested over police brutality and political malfeasance. We put on art shows, and I was encouraged to display my photography, which until then was only seen by me. I met many creatives in Soul Matters groups. Now that group has come full circle, and there's a Soul Matters group specific for that creative spirit. We weren't always regular, but we never lost sight of the UUCL, just wandered sometimes. When we travel, we seek out UU congregations. Then the pandemic and Zoom provided us with even more UU families. Travel no longer required to attend remote locations to attend church. All Souls in New York, Florida, even Hawaii. We attended the congregation that Barack Obama grew up in. Physically, together, we also changed the building that we called UUCL. We decided through a democratic vote to stay in Lancaster and not build in the urban sprawl. We renovated the old bones of this building several times. We connected the two buildings together. We added an elevator and found an underground stream. We created classrooms out of an open floor that was partitioned by movable panels. We added a labyrinth into the floor tiles to complement the amazing 13th Circuit one created by our members. And my son was one of those people that helped make it, and you still see his name in the corner of the canvas labyrinth. We dedicate this renovation to the newest chapter of the building we call UUCL. We learned so much in the process. We found gas lines in the walls behind the sconces that sometime in the past provided the light for the church. We discovered that too much glue was really hard to remove from underneath the carpet. George persevered. We discovered an absolutely beautiful floor. So, I'm proud of who we are and what we stand for in Lancaster. I give my time to support the building and therefore the family of the UUCL. Thank you.
Good morning, beloveds. I am Reverend Elizabeth Haralam Shuba, and I am your affiliated community minister. Today is a day of renewal of our promise to our tradition and to each other as we dedicate the sanctuary. My decision to have this service be a sharing of stories is in direct response to the desire expressed by so many of you at the town hall a couple of weeks ago, to be better known, to be heard, and to strive for deeper connection among us. In my experience as a chaplain, I have found the pathway to connection begins with the invitation of trust. When we offer a glimpse into our own story, we allow for an opportunity for others to trust us with theirs. In the years since I've been serving UUCL, I've shared elements of my story. So today I'll keep it brief, or as brief as we UUs can. I walked up the stone stairs to the wooden door of the original building, dedicated in May 12, 1909, for the first time when I was 8 years old in about 1980. That wasn't the door you got in from. But it was so inviting and so, I don't know, it represented, it has come to represent home to me. And I've celebrated many rites of passage here over the next 40 years. I've been married here. One of my children was dedicated here. The other one was born during a renovation and was dedicated over at the chapel at Lancaster Theological Seminary. Not sure, but I think the thing that was most surprising in those 40 years was my ordination. I'm not sure who saw that coming, but it certainly wasn't the 8-year-old version of me, and it probably wasn't my mother either, who's here today. Today I wear the clerical robe made by my child, Sydney Shuba, and the stole you gifted me on the day of that ordination, November 6, 2022. In our tradition, the ordained are gifted a stole at the ordination by the congregation ordaining them as a symbol of moving from a lay leader to a cleric. And it was a big day for us all. You fostered a UU child and birthed her into UU ministry. This is a rare and celebrated thing among my colleagues, and I'm hopeful that it is with you as well. I couldn't be more proud of us. I couldn't be more proud of what we can accomplish when we pull together like a village does. Carved into the side of this pulpit is a list of prophets. And I'd urge after the service, if you haven't taken a look, that you check it out, as well as all of the beautiful updates that have been hard fought for and won. Please feel free to come back and look at my stole and my robe too. I know my kid put a lot of time into it, and I'm really proud. Bless you. Need a tissue? I don't have one. We UUs believe that each of us have access to our own prophetic voice, and it is in the aspiration of our principles and values that we live into that voice. It's another reason why our stories are so important, and why I hope we continue to allow the space to share them. One of the ways that we express our story is through song, and I'd like to invite Luann and Diane to come sing with us, or lead us in song, or sing.
Now, this is not a solo or a duet. This is a congregational hymn sing, okay? So grab your books, please. But before you turn to page 121, I'm going to ask you to do something. Open the cover, because inside the cover, there's, in many of the books, a dedication to someone or something they've done, something in the past. And since we're focusing on our history, I thought it might be nice just to recognize what's on the cover. The irony is, when I looked at my cover, this hymnal is dedicated to the service of Catherine Blackburn, which many of us know. Catherine, if you're on Zoom, this is for you, babes. She was an interim volunteer choir director for us in 2013 and 2014. Catherine's love of music, her love of the Unitarian Church, and her fellow choir members made her gift to the congregation special in our time of need. Thank you, Catherine. Okay, the song, yeah.
I add that Catherine is always pushing for more classical music. Here, so she is very happy today.
Sandal.
Thank you, trumpets.
I sure hope Catherine's on Zoom today. Okay. 121 is one of our favorite hymns. And the interesting part is that the lyrics were written it's about 760 BC. It's a biblical reference from the book of Isaiah. I think it's chapter 5, verse 24. You didn't know Unitarians could quote the Bible, did you? Okay. And it's the part where justice shall roll down like waters and peace like an everlasting stream. So as you are able, please rise. And we're going to do hymn 121, all 4 verses. Don't make me sing alone, please. And we're doing it to a polka beat, by the way. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's have a chorus. We'll build a land where we bind up the broken. We'll build a land where the captives go free, where the oil of gladness dissolves all mourning. Oh, we'll build a promised land that can be. Come build a land where sisters and brothers anointed by God will then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land where we bring the good tidings to all the afflicted and all those who mourn, and we'll give them garlands instead of ashes. Oh, we'll build a land where peace is born. Come build a land where sisters and brothers anointed by God will then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. We'll build a land, building up ancient cities, raising up the stations from old, restoring ruins of generations. Oh, we'll build a land of people so bold. Come build a land, sisters and brothers, anointed by God, may then create peace, where justice shall roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. Come build a land where the mantles of praises resound from spirits find and once sweet, where the coats of righteousness stand her people. Oh, come build the land, my people we seek. Come build a land, sisters and brothers, anointed by God, will then create peace, where justice will roll down like waters, and peace like an ever-flowing stream. All right. Woo.
Hello, my name is Marianne Smith. As I stand before you today, I am filled with a mix of emotions. No one will be surprised by that. Reflecting on my nearly 20 years as a member of the Unitarian Universalist Church of Lancaster. This journey has profoundly shaped my understanding of community, resilience, and the values we hold dear. I joined this church during a pivotal time of my life, shortly before my son Max was born. He is 19 years old and a college freshman now. Navigating the complexities of an abusive first marriage, I found solace in the warmth and support of this community. I vividly remember how Peter and Tricia, our former ministers, offered guidance and a listening ear when I felt utterly lost. Peter gave me a stone to carry in my pocket. He said so I could put it in my shoe if I wanted to return to that marriage. Their departure and the way that they left our church was a significant loss for me, one that still feels relevant as I grapple with my place in this church. I carry this wound alongside my fond memories of the church over many years. Amidst the challenges, I have cherished moments that reaffirm why I remained in this community. The spaghetti dinners we held many years ago in Emerson are among my happiest memories. Those spaghetti dinners were not just meals, they were opportunities for connection, laughter, and a sharing of life experiences. We bonded over shared challenges as parents and our hope for our children's futures. Those interactions provided me with a sense of belonging. My children grew from babies to older boys in this church, attending the Lancaster Cooperative Preschool and participating in activities that shaped their early spiritual development. As my children grew, I was grateful for the opportunities they had to learn about liberal spirituality. The teachers and mentors at the Lancaster Cooperative Preschool played a vital role in shaping their early understanding of compassion, acceptance, and community. I fondly recall the connections we made in a Soul Matters group led by Rebecca Lehman, where we delved into parenting and spirituality together while our children ate pizza and watched movies. It's bittersweet to see my son Skylar maintaining friendships like with Rebecca's son Aiden, despite neither Aiden or Skylar attending church anymore. I once longed for them to grow into adulthood in this progressive community. Now I hope for this slim possibility they may return as adults. The Soul Matters group was a pivotal experience for me, not just as a parent, but as an individual seeking deeper connections. The themes we explored allowed me to reflect on my own life and values, creating bonds with fellow parents who understood the joys and challenges of raising children in today's world. These friendships, although impacted by changes within the church, have left a lasting impact on my life. I am hopeful about the direction our church is taking in addressing issues like climate justice and education equity. Our collective efforts, whether through the native plant sale, the solar project, or advocating for educational reform in Pennsylvania, reflect our commitment to creating a more just and equitable world. These initiatives not only benefit our immediate community, but also set an example for how faith communities can engage in meaningful action. Our efforts show our potential for collective action and positive change. This spring, when my husband Andy had heart surgery and then a rebound trip to the hospital, I felt overwhelmed by frustration and fear. In that vulnerable moment, Reverend Shuba offered her support and compassion, allowing me to express my pain and uncertainty. Her kindness was a reminder that we are not alone in our struggles, and that we have a community that cares deeply. While I wholeheartedly embrace the principles of our faith, I often feel disappointment when our church's actions do not align with these values. I have witnessed a tendency to prioritize financial concerns over the needs of our most vulnerable members. The financial requirement to be a member in our bylaws could be adjusted to be more inclusive. I am encouraged by the most recent sustainability recommendations by the Financial Advisory Committee, which seem to be based on an abundance mindset. I have learned so much from leaders that are no longer with us, and I'm specifically thinking of Larry Carroll and Bob Murkowski. Working on the covenant with the Committee on Ministry was a pivotal experience for me, as it allowed me to engage deeply in conversation with trusted elders about the values most important to our congregation. I appreciated Reverend Israel, whose progressive views stretched and challenged my own beliefs and expanded my understanding. My involvement with Lenore Bejar-Dukes and Randy Neuswanger on summer programming and informal community gatherings, inspired by Adrienne Marie Brown's emergent strategy, was enriching to our community and to myself personally. As we navigate the complexities of our church community, I encourage each of us to actively contribute to a welcoming and inclusive environment. By listening to diverse voices, particularly those who may feel marginalized, we can cultivate a richer, more dynamic community. I believe that being open to different perspectives, we can learn from one another and grow together in ways we have yet to imagine. I also encourage each of us to remain aware of how microaggressions might appear within our interactions, even when unintentional. Let's support each other in noticing and calling out these moments, doing so with grace and understanding as a means to learn and grow. Each small action brings us closer to the truly inclusive community we aspire to be. In closing, let us remember the humanity that connects us all. We will make mistakes, but it is how we respond to these moments that define us. Approach one another with curiosity, compassion, and a commitment to grace. Together, we can create a space where hope thrives and where each member feels valued and empowered to contribute to our shared journey. Thank you for being a part of this journey with me.
Hello, my name is Linda Kinney, and one of my many memories of this sanctuary is the big winter solstice service that took place each year from 1996 to 2019, the one that filled this sanctuary space year after year. In late November 1996, our then new minister, Reverend Susan Milner, approached Sarah Preston and I with a winter solstice service that her congregation in Minnesota had done each year. It involved a cast of thousands, a Greek-speaking chorus, drummers, dancers, and musicians, including a bagpiper. And it was late November, mind you, when she approached us. So Sarah and I looked at each other and said, "Sure, we can do that." I am not sure to this day how we pulled it all together, but we did. And after the final rehearsal, we really had no idea how many people would come to the service, or if anybody would come. "Well, I know my family will be there," we said to each other. So when the service started back at that time, the church was in total darkness, and the Greek-speaking chorus processed in with our trusty little flashlights pointed at the floor so we could see where we were going. And we came up here to sit down, and the pews were still, for the choir, were still up here in the front. Light returned to the sanctuary gradually throughout the service, and it wasn't until all the lights came up in the end that we realized that the church was packed with people. This annual service became so popular that people would show up early to get a seat, and we were challenged to find spaces for all the participants. So after a few years, we extended the winter solstice service to run for 2 nights, and then required people to have a ticket to get in, and tickets were free. Many of the people who came were from outside the church, and this was their first experience at UUCL. We also hosted a reception afterwards in Emerson, and Amy Mozingo and Catherine Rivera did a wonderful job providing refreshments and a place where people could gather afterwards as a community. The winter solstice service evolved throughout the years. Bob Ulrich was not only our sound technician, but he did some amazing special effects, including producing Northern Lights. At the end of the service, when the light returned, we had a cauldron for a while that was lit by a switch devised by Bob, and the effect was quite stunning. Unfortunately, one year we had to omit the cauldron fire. Someone from the Lancaster newspaper came to a rehearsal and was taking pictures. The following day, a picture of the cauldron fire appeared in the newspaper in all its glory, and it caught the attention of the Lancaster Fire Marshal, who informed us that we couldn't do that anymore. I do believe there were some people who met with the fire marshal and put up the argument that other churches had Christmas Eve services where they passed the candle flame, but there was no getting around this one. So Bob created a huge sun in front of the church and an orb of light that was carried in by one of the Rivera girls. And when they held up that orb of light, the giant sun up in the windows up front lit up, signaled the return of the light. The last several years of this major production were run by the team of Judy Hurlbut, Linda Dobbins, and Marianne Joyce. In 2019, the three of them decided to step down after that winter solstice service and take a well-deserved break. And then a few months later, there was the pandemic. So this form of the winter solstice service came to its natural close. There have been different forms of winter solstice celebrations since then. I feel so very blessed to have been a part of the winter solstice service over the years, and I remember those nights when we would all gather together in this sanctuary to take the journey of the longest night of the year to the return of the light.
In your program, you should have a yellow sheet. This is the sacred part of the service where we dedicate this renewed sanctuary. I'll say the bold bits, and you all, if you don't mind, will offer the italicized bits. We are a many-storied people with a long history. Our ancestors placed us on this path of seeking. We honor our ancestors by remaining curious seekers. It is with gratitude that we gather in this sacred space where many songs have been sung together. We honor our ancestors by raising our voices in song. We will choose to live open-hearted in an unjust world because we believe it will lead to justice. We honor the work of our ancestors toward justice by being stewards of our tradition, including maintaining the space as a beacon for other seekers without spiritual home. Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its gift. This is our great covenant. We have promised to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. This is our great covenant. With the renewal of our sanctuary comes opportunity to renew our promise to each other, to be the interconnected web of which we are all a part. We honor this opportunity with renewed efforts and connection and a willingness to be more vulnerable with each other and others we unite. May it be so. Blessed be.
Good morning. I'm Kim Chappell. I appreciate and echo the stories and experiences of those who have spoken so far. And my experiences reflect just the same as many of yours. And I applaud the renovations that so many of you have physically participated in and funded. But my comments are actually directed at something that has existed since the sanctuary's origin more than a century ago. I am one of the curious seekers mentioned just now in the dedication. I wish we could summon the shades of longtime church members and historians Jack Luce and David Schuyler to celebrate this sanctuary's rededication. Jack's published History of UUCL and David's Historical Society articles and guided tours are testaments to the rich history of this sanctuary. But at least we have their written words to help us picture the energy and determination of past congregants to create this space and to make it beautiful. And I wish we could reach further back and summon local merchant M.T. Garvin, who, as a founding member of this church, was the philanthropist who funded the majority of the building's construction and decoration. One of the most beautiful features of this sanctuary is directly in front of you. There. In fact, during late fall, winter, and early spring, during a sunny Sunday service, it is best appreciated. That's when the late morning sun illuminates the south-facing stained glass window over the altar table and allows its panels to be seen more clearly than at any other time of day. I confess that sometimes in the past, my attention has wandered from the sermon to this window. But I have found that the ornate script for the virtues celebrated in the window are hard to discern, and perhaps you've experienced this also. I'd like to ask M.T. Garvin if he chose which virtues and their accompanying symbols should be pictured in the window, and what role he had in their arrangement. In his absence, however, I thought I would help those of you who have had the same trouble as I have in reading the window. And so I offer you a short guided tour of the individual virtues. Some of the symbols are traditional liturgical ones, and others just make common sense. So we're going to begin from the upper left and work from left to right. At the top left is the word revelation, and the symbol for that is flames. To its right, the right top virtue, is truth. Interestingly, this is the only virtue that's also written in Latin, veritas. Its symbol is a little hard for me to determine exactly what it is. It looks sort of like the bottom of a sun with some rays, but I'm not sure that's correct. Alone in the second row is love, and of course we acknowledge that as the spirit of this church in our affirmation of faith. And the symbol there is a rose, which makes a lot of sense for love and its traditional symbols. Going to the third row, we have joy with a singing bird. In the middle, we have hope with the traditional symbol of an anchor. And to the right, the third in that row, is peace with the symbol of the dove. Going down to the next row on the left, we have goodwill, which has a bee's cap and bees around it. In the middle, we have faith with a 5-point star. And then to the right, we have integrity, which is the full sun symbolized. Moving down, we have temperance with the symbol of the wheel. We have patience with the symbol of a cross. It seems to be almost an equally armed cross. And on the right, we have gentleness with the very common sense symbol of a lamb. The next to last row from the bottom is charity with a basket of bread under it. We have then in the middle righteousness with scales. And then on the right, we have purity with a lily symbolizing it. On the bottom row, we have courage with a lion, wisdom with an oil lamp with a bit of flame coming out of it, and the last virtue is fortitude with a thistle symbol. So perhaps you have a favorite symbol, favorite virtue, I should say, among these, or perhaps you see one that you'd like to devote some time and consideration to. There are certainly 2 years' worth of Soul Matters topics right up here. Thank you.
Thank you to all who shared their stories. I'm going to offer Len Lidowitz's reflection, as he wanted to write, but didn't want to share. Unless you want to share, my friend.
I will share it. I just didn't know if you wanted to do it.
I thought you were being shy.
I will do it. Yeah, but I'm going to have to read it from my cell phone. Oh, you have the written version. Okay.
It's ready for anything.
Okay, you're ready for this.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm impressed. Okay. Well, Ivana and I joined the UUCL in 1991, although I recall kicking around here on occasional Sundays, probably as early as 88 or 89. Prior to that time, we struggled to find a religious community. Our religious upbringings were quite different. Ivana had been raised Roman Catholic and attended Catholic school for a period of time. My own circumstances were much more interesting. My dad was conservative Jewish and deeply religious, kosher, the whole bit. My mom was born Jewish, but my parents divorced before I can ever remember them living together, and remarried Roman Catholic and converted. So it was literally Jewish holidays with Dad on Saturday, followed sometimes by Mass on Sunday. And to make matters worse, I didn't buy any of it. Either of it. Didn't buy any of it. And I'm not sure they did either. I used to ask my dad, who was the most religious person I knew, do you really think you're going somewhere that everybody else isn't going when it's all said and done? And he would just crack up laughing at a question like that. He didn't have a good answer other than he'd tell me, you had to believe in something. And of course, I did believe in something, and it was Unitarian Universalism, but I didn't know it existed. But I did believe in something. And so, you move on, and someone invited us to attend here, a friend, I think it was Susan Lithgow, who's probably out there someplace. Ivana and I had been told we had to pick a religion if we were going to survive and all that. We tried St. Mary's in the city, far too mainstream for me. It was never going to happen. Anyway, the Ku Klux Klan had a rally here in Lancaster, and I believe marched right down, I think it was Walnut Street, not Chestnut, but anyway, it was about half frightening. And shortly after that, the Reverend Kit Howell put together a masterful sermon that preached against that kind of hatred, and I was impressed. We read a little bit about UU Church. Church is a term I'd never been comfortable with. I prefer to refer to us as a congregation, and learned about the principles and purposes of UUism, and eventually we registered for the new member orientation and signed the book in 1991. Some of the friendships we made from that new member orientation exist to this day. Some of those folks no longer live in the Lancaster area, but we continue to be in touch with them, and even bring them here if they turn up in town. That's the late 1990s and early 2000s, I think were a magical time in the history of the congregation. We had a vibrant RE program that both of our kids participated in. We experienced growth that led to major facility renovation. The last renovation, some of that was referenced with the elevator and so forth. Lots of community activism and social growth, but we experienced tragedy as well, and the death of a beloved minister. I'm proud to have served a term as president of the UUCL in 1999, I believe it was 99, 2000, during that time of the last major facility renovation. And I look back on those years with many fond memories. Throughout my time at UUCL, I've always thought we've expected far too much of our minister and far too little of our congregants, so I've been pleased to see lots of new people stepping up in leadership roles in the last couple of years. And lately I've seen a resurgence of the energy that reminds me of those magical years past, as evidenced by the attendance here today. I hope we can continue to grow and thrive as a congregation in the future. I think in times like this, Lancaster needs us now more than ever. Thanks.
I'm just going to grab my stuff or I'm not going to know where we are. Oh, was that yours? Oh, good.
Just some brief announcements. I'll direct you to the back of your order of service for the full list of announcements. I want to highlight Tim Harkleroad's art show, which is on display in Founders Hall from now until December 21st. 24 watercolor pieces, and they're for sale, so go by and check it out. He actually holds a degree from Pratt Institute in industrial design, and he was a professional in that for 40 years. He's also been painting in watercolor since 2018 and has been taking classes with Steve Wilson that whole time. You'll also notice in one of your inserts there's opportunities for volunteerism, so please check that out, and if these are gifts that you're willing to share with the community, please do so. As noted earlier, there is cake downstairs, 2 cakes I'm told, so feel free to stop by coffee hour for additional conversation and some cake. It will be in Emerson Hall because the art show's in Founders Hall. So thanks so much. We will move now into our closing hymn, which is A Promise Through the Ages Ring, which is number 344. Please stand in body or spirit as you're able.
Easter features in the lyric, and we're singing it anyway. Right there. George Carichiarto is going to come to give special thanks. You can sit, you can stand, do what you need to do. To those who participated.
I'll make this brief.
We'll see.
There's a couple people I really want to thank. One is the operations team, Alan Jacobs and Dave Dusinger. We put our heads together on this project, and you can see the results. It was a lot of fun. We had vision, we had support, we had actually money, so that really helped. And we had a lot of fun doing it. There are a couple people here that aren't members who came in and helped. One is Fran Luda. Fran, would you stand up just for a minute? Fran came in and helped tear out all the pews, believe it or not. So it was Fran, myself, and another gentleman, Dave Hamill. Stand up, Dave. And Dave's a neighbor. He was kind of bored that day, decided to come down and help. So I think he got into more than he thought he would. But thank you both. You were amazing. Bill Horst, our sexton. Bill helped a lot with this project. We put the carpet in the back. We put a subfloor in. Did all kinds of things. We scraped the floor. It was amazing, but it was a lot of hard work, and I'll get to that in a bit. One of the things where we saved a lot of money was we pulled all the wires. You don't see them, but they come from the very back to the sound table, to the front, across the front, over to the speakers. All that had to be figured out so you wouldn't see the wires, correct? Well, that's very expensive for people to do. So we spent a good bit of time pulling those wires and got everything where they were supposed to be. And that always had me concerned. What if we didn't put the right wire in the right place? But we did. George Myers isn't here today. George lives out at Willow Valley and works in the wood shop. And his friend Walt Schmierman built the sound table for us. They took, stand up, Walt. They took all the wood from the pews, not all of it, but a lot of it, resurfaced it, got it in shape where they could build that sound table, and that's all from the pews. All that was the wood that we had, that we could use, the backs, the seats, those kinds of things we could actually utilize. When it came to tearing up the carpet, which was an incredibly hard job because the glue was really strong, we had to cut little strips, and we'd take two people to pull that strip to get it to come up. And I had a whole crew. Len Litowitz, Fred Foster Clark, Dave showed up, Corey Bolello, Skylar, Marianne Smith's son, he was here, Tara and Cindy Pollard's son, all helped getting that carpet up, which was probably the worst job of the whole thing. And when our chairs finally came, one of the things I worried about was, how are we going to unload the truck? We're all not as young as we used to be. So when I talked to the people that built the chairs, which is up in New Holland, believe it or not, very close, they said they would take care of getting the chairs into the sanctuary. So the next step was putting little felt pads on each chair. So I had a whole team. Mary Strauss-Saylor, Chris Brubaker, Matt Bruns, Timmy and Karen Zipser, Sharon Nelson, Darcy Pollock, Susan Lithgow, George and Carol Myers, Carol Bergen, Tom Rapici, Alan Jacobs. We're all here doing that so we could get these chairs in. We can't say enough about Tim Snyder, Bob Ulrich, Eli, when it came to figuring out the sound system, the streaming system, and everything else that had to be coordinated, including the lights. So all these lights can be controlled individually or as a group. And right now, the lighting in here is at 30%. Okay, it can go very bright. So, and each one of these lights has a little receiver in it, and it all works with Wi-Fi. So the light switch is back by the door and over here. So it makes it very easy to find the lights. I want to thank Kelsey for writing a lot of checks. That was very important. I don't know if you're aware, but the piano got totally rebuilt, and that was Eli's responsibility, and they fixed it, and I'd imagine it's playing very well. It sounds great, so thank you, Eli. And the last thing I want to thank is the Board of Trustees for making quick decisions. When we had to make a decision, it happened quick. We didn't have time to discuss things like we usually do, because vendors were waiting, so things had to be decided upon. So just a brief rundown. We had the floor refinished, we had lighting put in, the whole sanctuary was painted, the wiring was put in, we had new electrical put in, so a lot of things that we had on the list got done. Things you don't see, we had trees trimmed, and we also had a leak over the women's memorial room. It was a slow leak, but it was there. And I think that's why we had so much humidity downstairs in Emerson. So that's been corrected and finished, and I think we're good for another 20 years. Thank you.
As I feared he'd do by coming up here, we didn't get an opportunity to, I know that's what that was for, but George also led the charge in many ways. He spent a lot of time here, so. So a benediction in closing. There is so much gratitude for that long list, and it's a testament to what we can do when we come together with a singularity of focus. Let this sanctuary rebirth be a reminder of this going forward. May it be the catalyst needed to invigorate us for the work so dearly needed as we enter the next 4 years. Let the pride we have in this space shine out into the world as an invitation to join in the work. May it be so. Amen. Shalom, Ashe, and blessed be.